Welcome, everybody, to Voices of Recovery. Today's guest is Loren Beck, and I'm your host, Gregory Greer. Today's guest, everybody, you know him, you've seen him, he is loved, he is adored, he has an infamous lecture called the Beckster series. Welcome, everybody, today's guest, Loren Beck. Loren, my man.
How you doing?
And you are the man.
Well, thank you.
So many people think so highly of you, worship you, follow every move you make. I mean, you are just a brilliant breath of fresh air.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for tromping on down from Arkansas.
You bet.
What, El Dorado?
El Dorado, Arkansas. Yeah.
El Dorado. So many people don't know this about you, but you were a world traveler before you got into this, the field of substance use disorders and healing those that are suffering from it. And so I just kind of want to say, what in the world are you doing from, was it New Mexico? Man, what brought you from New Mexico to, I don't know, the Arklamas area?
Well, so I was in treatment in New Mexico, and I'd gone 3 times to a residential treatment facility.
In treatment? So you're in recovery, too.
I'm in recovery. And in 98, I went to treatment 3 times. And the third time I went, a friend of mine from the first time I went called and said, you should move to Arkansas.
From New Mexico?
And I said, what on earth for? And he said, I live in a dry county. And I had never heard of a dry county, and I'd been all over.
You live in New Mexico where it's dry.
It's dry, but
so
it's not
like, do I even emphasize dry meaning no alcohol?
Well, so I didn't understand the concept of a dry county. Basically, he said no liquor sold here. And I thought I could probably stay sober there. And so he sent me a bus ticket. I had no other options. And with $8, I jumped on a Greyhound from Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I went to a town. I didn't even know the name of the town, Monticello. And he luckily picked me up, put me in a halfway house. And here I am.
Holy mackerel, Andy. And here you are. Now we're in Louisiana. So with the venture of what brought you from New Mexico to Arkansas, what is it you do now?
I'm the director of substance use disorder services for Newhaven Recovery, which is a behavioral health facility for the 13th Judicial District in Arkansas. So they cover, I think, 6 counties. They've got 3 big clinics doing behavioral health. And then they decided to open a residential substance use facility and invited me up to take it over and manage it.
Wow. What do you, because most of this is, and I'll just bring up, Voice of Recovery is we're actually here to try to connect, unify, unite the providers, those that, treat the substance use disorder community, a recovery community. I mean, that's what I'm here to build, a connection. I'm here to drop the stigma of treatment centers or providers that fight for clients. It's like, oh my God, they're stealing clients from us. And trust me, there's plenty out there. And so to connect
we'll never run out of patients. That's the sad part of this whole disease.
It is sad. So allowing us to communicate together is the whole purpose of this.
You bet.
So you being here also talks about your journey. And so I'm interested in each guest's journey. So I'm interested in your journey. One brought you from New Mexico to Arkansas to Louisiana because you've been in Louisiana too. And so I kind of want to address, let's talk about your story as far as being in the depths of hell.
Well, so I do think, and every now and then I get to meet a patient who has a similar story, but it's very rare. So the last year and a half of my drinking and cocaine use, I was homeless. And I don't mean homeless as in I was living in shelters and that kind of homeless. I was homeless. And so, I was filthy, I was dirty, I was unkempt. I had bladder control issues. So I ended up, the first time I went to treatment, I was very fortunate. My parents had helped me out a little bit and got me into a hotel for a week before I went to treatment. So I was cleaned up. The second time I went, I was very, very dirty. And the third time I went, I was, covered with body lice, head lice. I had open sores on me that were simply infections. And I was just nasty. But that worked for me because I could approach just about anybody. And if I got close enough, they would give me some money to go away. Now, that's my recollection of it. I would imagine there are a lot of people out west that have ran into me while I was using and were terrified of what I was doing now that I think about it. But I was usually covered in urine, and you could smell me from, 20 yards, I suppose.
And so when a person lives, and not share all my, I've lived homeless as well, but I still was able to hold a job. But being at that place of being homeless, how I justify living in that condition, rationalize, what was your thought patterns? Like, what is it that allowed you to stay in that?
Well, copious amounts of alcohol. The first couple of times I went and panhandled, I popped $50, 60. Every now and then a church would give me a hotel for 3 nights and a clean pair of clothes. Mm-hmm. But I'd usually end up meeting somebody, maybe every other month or so that had a garage or had a shed or had something. And I'd post up in there for a couple of weeks. But the thought in my head was I really thought I was going to just go ahead and die this glorious, misunderstood failure to launch.
Glorious, misunderstood.
Yeah.
So if we threw some psychological terms around, that would be a form of, entitlement. And I say that to the point of self-pity, to the world has wronged me in some capacity, and therefore that's my pedestal to stand upon. Would that be accurate?
I would fantasize on a regular basis.
I say clinical, I was just being infant.
I would fantasize on a regular basis of my funeral and how so many people would say he was never given a chance. I was adopted at the age of 8. I was adopted at the age of 5 and returned to the state, a failed adoption. And then I was readopted at 8. And most of my sad little story ends at 8. I had fantastic parents. Those are the Becks. I think they're awesome people. They brought me in. They made me a child of theirs and loved me and gave me every single resource to succeed.
But now I said psychological earlier, whatever term I used, clinical, but our personalities are well formed by the age of 8. So if I move into a family system that is miraculously the most wonderful, walking on water, unfortunately, I have this hardwired thought processing that's ingrained in my being. And so even though that transition is most beautiful, that underlying
the failure to connect, the always feeling worse, always feeling that this is all an act, always waiting for when is this gravy train going to end. And I did all the attachment things through my young teen years and of you don't love me, I'm not your child. And I had great caseworkers through DHS. I had fantastic counseling. I was in counseling every week. And I had my mother, who was a master's in home economics. So I had Betty Crocker raising me. And she is really that model. She was the all things mother.
So what you just described was that same person that was living homeless.
Yes.
That was the same person
Yes.
living homeless and doused in alcohol and whatever substances that might have came along.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the point I was just making. So then what allowed you a different trajectory? You know, what light bulb moment came on and said, you know what? No, something's got to change. I mean, what was it? 3 treatment centers or how many you said?
So I went into the first treatment center. I memerized the steps. I memorized how it works. I was voted most likely to succeed. I had no desire to quit drinking. I just wanted comfort.
And no desire to get clean.
No desire to get clean.
So what do they call it? Professional bullshitter?
Yes. And the second time I went, I escaped because I had come across an old insurance check, and I thought, well, now I'm loaded. I don't have to worry about it. But that was gone very fast.
Yeah.
The third time I relate to Liar Liar.
Oh, great
where
flick.
Jim Carrey, who is unable to tell a lie, yells out loud, "I am a bad father." And he realized that's not a lie. That's not a manipulation tactic. That's the truth. And that was kind of my moment. I'm a horrible son. I'm a terrible father. I'm not anything in society. And I drugged myself back over to the treatment center, and I said, I'm going to come in here and do it right this time. I was very ill, and they did not want to let me come back in, and they did, and lied me down and antiseptic me up and gave me a shave and gave me clothes and burned my shoes and burned all my clothes. And they found a way to surrender enough to where when someone said, come to Arkansas, I'll put you in a halfway house, it's Dry County, I said, whatever it takes.
Yeah. I
came over and I did that, and I went to 18 months worth of meetings. Every single day I was at a meeting. I went 11 meetings I missed in my first 18 months.
So the motivation to change, which is interesting, I have a new internal message based upon what I said earlier. It sounds like you were living that same homeless person from, when you were a child, the mentality that there was a new message internally that you were developing and evolving.
Yeah. And,
the creation of that. So when you work with clients, few clients get your attention that you relate to or connect rather from their experience equally, or maybe they connect with you in that regard.
I've really been very blessed. I even before I was educated and before I even knew what a therapeutic rapport was or a therapeutic contract with a patient was, I've always been able to gain some level of respect or trust. But I have run into some that it's easy for me to spot any type of attachment disorder. And I can see it from far away. And I'm drawn to those patients because I can see it and I know kind of where they're at and how they need to adapt to start having healthier relationships.
So you mentioned you're the residential program director?
Yeah, SUD director.
SUD director?
Director of SUD service.
You hold many roles. You're also a clinical supervisor.
Yes.
For counselors in training. Counselors in training. And you and I have actually worked together. So I would like to mention our sponsors. Our sponsors for today's episode is actually Palmetto Addiction Recovery Center. And they've been around since 1993. 1993 in Rayville, Louisiana. And that's where I met you.
Yes,
and,
that's where my whole career changed.
It changed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, man, that's what we need to talk about. So yeah. Palmetto, being that the sponsors, I think it's kind of interesting, the impact, because I was a client there 3 times, and then I went back to work there many years after for 7 years. And there is a magic about that place.
There really is. There really is.
And so I met you, and you your background was pretty well known in Arkansas, and what you brought down to Louisiana still even more so. So maybe you could talk about your role as a clinical supervisor, if that's the correct terminology for counselors in training. What does that mean to you? How do you work with your counselors and trainers? What's important in that role besides the 12 core functions, of course, but those are the basics. But, what you look for.
So as a clinical supervisor in 2018, insurance changed in Arkansas to where a mental health professional could bill substance abuse services. And I was perfectly positioned. I was working for a behavioral health facility in El Dorado, and there was another one in Monticello and another one in Texarkana. And so all of the sudden, out of the blue, you've got 30 master's level therapists that are quite adept at being a therapist and know very little about substance use.
Thank you.
Who had to start developing treatment plans. And so I contracted with 2 of those agencies, and they taught me more about therapy than anything has, because they were all master's level therapists. And so as we went through, here's what it means to be a substance abuse counselor, and here's what to watch for, and here are all the unique things that a substance use disordered patient bring to therapy. I think I matured quite a bit doing that. And they might not tell you that because I'm very immature, but
really?
Yeah. And then
come on now.
In 19, the 2 of those contracts had ended, and I started looking at maybe I should be doing something bigger, and I made my first career move, and I joined a company that was fraudulent, and I got 2 paychecks in a row that bounced, and I was about to go back to work for the mental health agency, but I was having trouble there, and Palmetto calls. And their marketer said, "We're looking for a counselor. Are you interested?" And I said, "You couldn't have called at a better time." And when I got to Rayville, I was very insecure. And I came in, and I'm watching, LPCs with the addiction credentials, and they're doing what I have considered my whole career, because ever since I've been working in southern Arkansas, Palmetto was the place you would send somebody if they had the ability to go to Palmetto. And of course, those patients would come back to me for outpatient, and their knowledge base was just so further, or so more developed. Their vocabulary for recovery was way up there. Your name was brought up quite a bit.
I know they cuss me a lot.
No, they don't. And so when I got there, I'd already had these images, but I think I adapted real quickly to the Palmetto. I agree in their same recovery principles, and then I did start supervising in Louisiana. I love that Louisiana is very, very strict on their supervision. They monitor supervision by not allowing supervisors to have too many people on their caseload, so that quality services are provided to the ones that are on their caseload. And I don't know, there are other states that absolutely do not do that. People will have 35 CITs under yes, and no one's getting supervision. And I take supervision very, very serious.
I have talked to some of your counselors in training and about the group supervision you would hold, and it was, and I think I even sat in on one of them. And I believe the topics and how y'all addressed what you were exploring, I found to be therapeutic in addition to academic. And that speaks volumes, man.
It's some CITs. I'm literally more of a counselor, a professional for their profession, than I am a supervisor.
Well, think about it. All right, so look, I'm gonna bring up soul drama. You've attended a soul drama, and when you work with another. You're a star. The thing is about working with counselors. Counselors can't take their clients anywhere deeper that they themselves have not gone.
That's right.
And so sitting in the time I sat in with your group supervision, I recognized that you're working with your counselors in training to understand their own selves, countertransference, et cetera, and being able to work with their clients. Mm-hmm. So from a therapeutic perspective, in addition to academic, it was together. And so I found that to be endearing. That's the wrong word, but it was, because it's a relationship. You're creating relationships with the people that you're working with, and that creates even further relationships with the clients too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you nailed it. So I was told by my supervisor when I got my clinical supervision credential. His name was Mitch Francis. As far as I'm concerned, he is the godfather of substance abuse treatment. He, in a matter of 1 year, really taught me about being a supervisor. And he said, you are given the duty of gatekeeping professional substance abuse counselors. Mm. And so you're going to have to test them. You're going to have to stress them. You're going to have to push them. You're going to have to challenge them. And the way they respond there, understand that's very indicative of the way they're going to respond when they're challenged or pushed in sessions with patients. And I think going into it knowing, if I want to see how they're going to respond to frustration or disappointment, what better way than to get them frustrated or disappointed?
That's right.
So anybody watching this that I've ever supervised, I apologize. Yes, some of that was done on purpose. and it's interesting. I've supervised 35 people who have taken the test, and 33 passed the test the first time. So I'm very, very proud of that. I won't really let anybody go test that's not ready to test.
See, that has a moral flair to that as well.
Yeah, I really take pride in that. That's something that I know I'm doing.
Well, wait. On a joking level, that's a moral thing? Or is that, hey, you can't go and fail that because it's going to reflect on me?
There probably is some of that involved too. There's some ego there. Absolutely.
I can't have you like, that represents me, dude.
Yeah, you can't fail. I'm not going to let you test. You need to come back and tell me it was an easy test. That's what I need. I need you to pass it and go, it wasn't near as hard as you thought it was going to be.
So just one little flash more about Palmetto with your experience working there. What was it that was most, what sits with you? And even if there's a memory that, like flashes back that has a cinematic recall, what would that be? And then you could talk about your worst. Because everything has challenges, right?
I think my first graduation, where they do a rock out ceremony.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like that. I'd been in the field for 20 years, and I had never seen anything that awesome and dramatic. And the individual that I was graduating, my very first one, was a young man who had almost died multiple times. He had a very loving family, and he had done the full treatment at Palmetto. And two of the nurses and the intake coordinator asked if they could come to graduation. And it was very emotional. It was really good deal. And that's when I was like, wow, we're doing something different here. This is different. And so COVID had hit. You probably don't remember this, but COVID hit, and we were doing groups on the tennis court.
We were spread out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you were doing a lecture and everyone was sitting out on the tennis court, and I was just burning up. You know, it was June or July, and in this area of the country.
God, sounds miserable.
And yeah, and you were giving a lecture, and you were doing, you were talking about a group, and you had a bunch of very famous voices that were attending the group, and you were doing the voices, and I just thought, wow, this is next level stuff. You know, I was sitting there going, I always thought I was a very good presenter simply by reaction from people. Internally, I don't feel competent presenting, but I get a lot of feedback that apparently they're learning something. And sitting there watching you, and I'm going, I can't do that. I can't perform.
Oh, look, first of all, thank you. But you know, I had a background in theater. I studied theater for a number of years, wrote a few plays, and I
found that out later.
Oh, you didn't know all that before?
No, I didn't know that then.
But you know, this is called Voices of Recovery. Do you know how come?
Because of the people you can.
Because of all the impressions. And that was what my sponsor told me. I was like, what am I going to call my private practice? He goes, why don't you call it Voices of Recovery? Had nothing to do, which is so terrible, has nothing to do with the voices of people, but the fact that I do between 50 and 70 impressions, right?
Yeah,
and
you're doing well, too.
Well, thank you. But the tagline is find your voice. Now, which is interesting, and I want to come back to your story, because the whole purpose of finding your voice is we lose our voice. Think about your own story. You talked about before the age of 8, I didn't have a voice because I felt not wanted. Yeah. And so therefore me speaking out didn't have any. So on my pedestal, I'm going to die on this, grand spell that I was never going to get anything because I didn't deserve it because I was so rejected, etc.
Yeah, so unlovable.
That's my voice though at that time. So finding my voice that advocates for me. So Voices of Recovery is finding our voice. So again, this still metaphorically still speaks to you and I and how we carry what message we do, and whatever experiences, again, unifying all the professional community, your voice. So, and I've done impressions of you, Beck, and
Rooster,
Rooster, Rooster Codburn, and so look, I appreciate you talking about out on the tennis court and you experiencing, wow, this other bit, but I know that I had developed that some time ago, and thank you. I just thank you to it.
But walking into that environment with, Sean and Jeff was there, and Aaron was there, and Joseph, and the whole crew at Palmetto, they were all very, very good at what they did. And I was
don't forget Holly Rogers, man.
I'll never forget the first time I saw her in action. I had a patient that wasn't doing anything the way they were supposed to be doing it. And I said, would you talk to him? And we went into her office, and in 3 minutes, he was crying and dedicating himself to recovery. 3 minutes. And I'm like, wow, Holly. And she's like,
what?
Yeah. She's like, that's just,
that's
it's just a Monday. Yeah. And so, in my almost 5 years there, I learned so much. And am so blessed, and quite frankly, the patients I serve now are blessed to have the background I had with the criminal justice patients, the rural outpatient patients, the level of therapy that I learned from all the master's level therapists that I work with and continue to work with. And then to go into Palmetto and see it all put together in a nice, neat little package that is so deliverable. And it really took me to a whole nother level.
So I look at this journey professionally as we evolve. Mm-hmm. So we further develop in our professional development. And even though in our field, though, I think it's personal too, because those of us that truly care, we're not here just to get a paycheck. We have an emotional investment, which is kind of neat about the substance use disorders, that many of us are in recovery. And we've been there, done that, got that T-shirt. So we have an emotional connection with the individual that's coming in. Yeah. Same goes with you being a clinical supervisor and helping counselors and trainers. And I think that speaks volumes too.
I've one thing I do want to mention, and it's fairly new. I'm starting to realize that counselors, people who sign up to be a counselor, or get themselves approved for a CIT credential that are in recovery. And so these are usually people that are very active in recovery. They're going to multiple meetings a week. They sponsor multiple people, and they really just want to get into counseling so they can do it professionally. And the very first thing I tell every single one of them is working as a substance use professional is going to ruin your personal recovery routine as it stands today.
Can you say more to that?
So you lose your anonymity immediately. I can't go to a meeting in the Arklamis where I'm not going to run into a former client.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like being in meetings with former clients, but I'm in recovery. I have to have some meetings. And so if, today, if somebody signed up to be a counselor and they're super active in local recovery, within a matter of 6 months, they're going to start running into people they have provided clinical services for. And, there's quite a bit of information out there. Some rural areas don't mind it at all, but I'm of the opinion that my patients don't need me walking into a meeting and them thinking, Beck's here, I got to act a certain way.
Right.
Because that's not fair. And I don't like walking into a meeting and being asked if they can get their cousin into my treatment center. So I've had to make very clear boundaries. I'm Loren at AA meetings. And if somebody says, hey, Beck, I got a question, I say, my name's Loren. I will not discuss business. I just refuse to at a meeting. And I think that we lose a lot of very good people that would be excellent counselors that just don't have the boundaries.
So you're talking about professional boundaries.
Yes.
Professional boundaries, and that's something that many lack. And I'm grateful for what you're teaching.
Yeah.
What else would be another, since I'm thinking about it? So the professional boundaries, because we lose that area that I could do. So for those professionals that are seeking the AA connection, what do? What would you suggest to somebody that if I can't go, to the AA meetings, I need AA meetings. I know what I do, but I'm curious what you do.
Well, in the past, if you were going to do 12-step recovery, they would recommend blacktop recovery because I'm a professional. I should have access to going to the next town over or down the road and go to AA. But today, you don't have to worry about that. Like, I have a Zoom meeting that I attend.
Ah, there you go.
And I won't tell anyone what Zoom meeting I attend, ever.
Okay.
There's no bribery that would allow me to give that away because I'm just Loren, and no one knows what I do. And I've been going to that very regularly for the last 3 years. I know just about everybody in there. I can spot when there's a new person in there. I kind of know it's my home group of all things, which I never dreamed this was where my recovery would go. And then I make some meetings locally, but it's quite honestly, I don't know if I should say it out loud if anybody's watching this from El Dorado, but if I show up to a meeting, I'm going through something personally. And I'm sitting in the meeting to get myself grounded back into recovery. I don't just go to a meeting to go to a meeting, or I'm watching someone coin or whatever it might be. But yeah, and that works very well for me. But I think a lot of people get into the counseling field thinking I'm already counseling over at AA or NA.
Yeah.
I might as well get paid to do it.
Mm.
And that is not at all the way to enter into counseling. You enter into counseling and you have to understand the biggest thing I see 6 months into the field is I don't want to go to meetings all day long. I've been down at the IOP building, or I've been down at the drug court, or I've been down at the clinic or the treatment center, working with patients and calling families and doing all the things that a counselor does. And at 6 o'clock, when I get home, the last thing I want to do is go to some meeting where we're going to talk about addiction or talk about recovery. And that's where I see a lot of people fail. I've probably had 50 people who have signed up to be a counselor with me, and 33 of those are counselors. So where are the other 20 or 25? They got out of the field.
I see. Well, there's a lot of burnout.
A lot of burnout.
I think that has to do with not the training, but the development, the professional development, and what the motivation is.
Yeah.
So
I also think CITs are abused.
They are. A lot of treatment centers,
Yeah.
and I say it, for monetary purposes. Instead
Sure.
of hiring a master's level clinician, we'll just find some CITs or we'll find some people just popped out of treatment who are just 2 years sober and really die hard for this, because the
You say
salaries
2
went-
years, Greg. It's
it's less than that.
there's a whole bunch that are 3 months out of treatment.
Well, that's
Not at any of the
that's a
places.
horse of a different color.
Not at any of the places but there's a bunch of them. A bunch.
Well,
And
so that speaks to what my point about the monetary purpose of how come they'll take that. So when it comes to those taking a professional role as helping the SUD disorders, so, my professional family, one of them is American Group Psychotherapy Association. So I'm a clinical member and a certified group psychotherapist. And I have a Zoom meeting with them, and you have to be a member of that community. But it's a 12-step group.
Really?
And it's all 12 steps. I mean,
Awesome.
we have people that are in sex, love addiction, overeaters, Al-Anon,
CODA.
CA, NA. I mean, there's a slew of 12-step, and they're all in it, and we all just discuss, and even as professionals, so if you want to call that. So those of us that carry a professional role. So, but the discussions that we have are often our challenges as professionals. What am I experiencing as a professional? Because we can have challenges at work in the administrative aspects, that who do I communicate with when I'm dealing with that stress?
Yes.
And then we have the stress of the clients or any other dynamic part of it. And then if you use that in a spiritual context, that's what a 12-step meeting seeks to do, is find, how am I practicing these principles in all of my affairs? All of my affairs.
Absolutely.
And when I first joined AGPA, and it was kind of I don't know. I didn't know how to receive it, because I was just being Greg. I mean, I just spilled my stuff out there, but I didn't start college in the field of addiction young. I didn't get my master's till I was 40. So I walk in there just spilling out everything, and they're like, "Wow, you're being pretty
vulnerable,
open, buddy."
Yeah.
I'm like, well, who isn't? What are y'all doing? And I was like, we're all sitting here with suits and ties on. I'm like, hey, man, I lived homeless and I did all this. And well, most of us, I went to, Juilliard or something.
Yeah.
Well, nobody went to Juilliard. I went into clinical, but Yale or Harvard. And so being able to speak and then disclose their heart about what's really going on, and to start hearing that, because those challenges are important. How do I face this? Mm-hmm. And because take away alcohol and drugs, and what's left? Life. We're still living.
Yeah.
So it's like, what am I exploring that I can say what I'm getting stressed out about today? So if I'm still, having those feelings of rejection, not good enough, and I'm going to be on the pedestal of, I'm going to go out with glory with this, that old wound,
it's still there.
Will come up.
You bet.
Come up. Same as,
Comes up for me, Greg, as imposter syndrome. Even though I have cut my teeth and I've put my time in and I researched like a fanatic, because I'm constantly afraid somebody smarter than me is going to point out that I was wrong about something I'm teaching. So I try to be as informed as I possibly can. And yet, because of my issues and because of me never really feeling a part of and having attachment disorder, and I've done a lot of work in that area. It's not as bad today, but just 3 years ago and most of my career, whenever anybody told me I was doing something well, I thought someone told them to tell me that.
Yeah.
I always felt like you don't mean that. I always felt like you have no other choices at this point. And I used to always say, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. And it taught me a lot. And people say, well, you know, he won't ever take credit for anything. It's not that I won't take credit for it. It's that I don't actually feel it. So I almost rebuked it up until a few years ago. And a few years ago, you introduced me to the soul drama. We were doing it online. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
And that was really cool. And then we went and did one over at the retreat. And you cracked me open like a 3-year-old pecan on the floor. And I busted out with all my, inner child issues. And so that pushed me in the direction of healing that inner child. And I've really done well since I started doing some of that and understanding that my insecurities are not based in anything other than trauma. You were saying in the beginning, I'm well known and I have this presence and all that. I'm just coming to terms with how big that is, and how beneficial that is, and how, I'm having some kind of an effect on Southern Arkansas's idea of recovery. And it's a hell of a position to be put in.
It's a beautiful position, and I just want to say that you deserve it.
I appreciate that, and I think maybe I do. I've worked very hard for this.
Yeah, you have.
And but hopefully it keeps coming out, and hopefully I can stay as connected spiritually as I've been. And I lost a bunch of weight this last year, 55 pounds.
Hot dog.
I really thought
you look great, man.
I sweat a lot, and I thought
yeah,
if I could lose 50 pounds, I would stop sweating. And I'm still sweating a lot, so I think I have about 30, 40 pounds to go.
Dude, the humidity is pretty rough around here. I don't know if that has to do with the weight.
I'm not made for it. I'm really not. But yeah, so I've had a little physical healing going on, and
Hey, let me ask you a question. I'm looking at the time. What do you think would allow you to feel that you do deserve it? You say, I think I am deserving of it. What do you believe allows you to believe or feel?
I mean, it's just the amount of people that reach out to me, the amount of people that send me some kind of a message when they hit their milestones in recovery. I had somebody the other day who said, there's an old lecture I used to do, and he was messaging me and saying, I remember that I'm supposed to put on the armor of recovery every single morning and walk through the day protected. And he had gotten reminded of that, and he literally quoted what I used to quote in a lecture. And I got to thinking about that, and I was like, that was 12 years ago. And this guy's been to treatment 3 times since then, 4, 5. But he is still using that bit of advice. That lets me know that what I'm doing is correct.
Amen.
Yeah.
It resonates, it builds.
Yeah.
And while somebody returns to treatment however many times, that message, that seed that is planted will eventually grow.
Yeah.
Produce a crop. Is that said correctly? Is that how that's
Sure.
phrased? Did I even say that metaphorically?
Yeah, I think the fruit will show. I do want to plug where I work. Can I do that?
Yeah, man. Look into a camera over there. I got to say. Loren.
So, Newhaven Recovery Lodge, we are a nonprofit. I think that's extremely important. 25% of our bed spaces are free beds. And we accept most major insurances. We have a very low counselor to patient ratio, and the vibe of the place is fantastic. It was a hospice, and so for 20 years, people would go there to pass on, and now they go there to start over, and it shows. You can feel it in everything over there.
Man, I like the way you put that in there. People were going there to pass on. Now people are coming in there to start over.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, that is a death.
Sure.
That's a rebirth, but that is a death of an old part of my old life.
Yes.
So that's a that's a beautiful way to phrase that.
And we do a psychodrama therapy.
Y'all do?
Yes, with a coffin. We have an actual coffin.
Oh, and you're putting the addiction to rest.
Yeah, we'll have a full funeral service.
Oh, dude, I dig it.
It's amazing.
Oh, man, that's beautiful. Bring God in there and say, we're going there.
That's a combination of you and stuff I saw other people do at Palmetto. It's fantastic. It's really good.
It. Well, let me share just my gratitude with not just you, but your vulnerability today. Your vulnerability today, and to be able to just explore whatever we could. Love to have you back sometime to go further. We can talk policies and procedures and all that, but still keep the human, spiritual context of what this is supposed to be, because the vulnerability is very important. Even though professionals, we're humans, we have a spiritual journey, and it's life.
Yeah.
It's life. So
it really did feel like just you and I sitting down at Delta Biscuit Company having breakfast this morning.
Well, I'm missing out on the biscuits,
yeah,
man. Daggone. But you look great, my friend.
Yeah, anytime I talk to you, I'm gonna go further than I want to go personally, but fantastic. I enjoyed it.
Oh, man, great. So thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you guys for joining us today. Next episode, we're expecting to have the legendary icon, Roy Boss. And those that know him, I say no more. We'll join him next week. So for Voices of Recovery, I'm Greg Greer. Thank you for joining us. Namaste.